moments today. I know we're in the middle of this debate about the health care law, about the nomination, on a topic I've been working on for a while and was compelled to come to the floor at this late hour because it is now broken into the press, and it's important to kind of give some clarity. As my colleagues will know, I've spent a significant amount of time over the last few years discussing the issues in the nation of Venezuela, which has a direct impact on my home state of Florida, but ultimately on the country. It's a nation that faces some very significant challenges, primarily because of its political leadership is a disaster. It is no longer truly a democracy. It's now a government run by a tyrant who has basically ignored the Constitution. They've taken over the courts. The members of the judiciary in Venezuela now basically are under the complete control of their so-called president, Nicolás Maduro, and before that, Chavez. They control the press. They have a National Assembly that actually is controlled by the minority party or the opposition party to the government, but it's pretty shocking. My colleagues would be shocked by this. You know, we all travel abroad often, and imagine if you lived in a country where the president denied you the ability to travel abroad. Well, that's what's happened. One of the members of the National Assembly in the opposition, Luis Florido, was trying to go to Peru to travel and was denied the ability to leave the country. Imagine that. Imagine one of our Democratic colleagues here in the Senate decided they wanted to take a trip next week overseas in the conduct of their office and were told that the president was not allowing them to travel abroad. Well, that happened in Venezuela. Another one, Williams Davila, had his passport taken away by the president of Venezuela. So the country's a disaster because of their leadership. It's actually headed into a cataclysm. In April of this year, Venezuela has to make a $6 billion payment on their debt. They will not be able to make that payment. And the government of Venezuela knows that, so it's a terrible situation. But in the midst of all that, I have argued that the national security interest of the United States is at stake in what's happening in Venezuela. This is not just about the issue of democracy. It's also about the threat potentially poses to the United States. And that's what I come to the floor to speak about tonight. My office has been engaged with a number of people over the last few months and year who have been coming to us with information, and we've been working on some of this. Some of that is now broken into the press tonight in the CNN report that I'm about to describe in a moment. But first, let me lay out the scene. There's been about 8.5 million names added to Venezuela's immigration system since it was last independently audited in the year 2003. Okay? 8.5 million people added to their immigration system. New names that have come about. Of the 8.5 million names that were added, 221,000 of those, over 221,000 of those, are foreign nationals. And at least 173 of those 221,000 foreign nationals are from the following countries: Iran, Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, and Jordan. Okay, 173 people from these countries were provided government passports and national IDs between the year 2008 and 2012. Which leads me to this. In November of 2015, a Venezuelan attaché by the name of Misael Lopez Soto, who was assigned to the country's embassy in Baghdad, became a whistleblower. And he began to reveal the identities of several of these 173 names. Understand that this is important because there's been a 168% jump in U.S. asylum applications from Venezuela since October of 2015. It's now the third highest nation of origin for asylum applicants to the United States. The overwhelming majority of them are legitimate people fleeing all of this craziness that's happening there. But I lay the groundwork to understand the connection between Venezuela and the United States. And I want now to go into the story of Mr. Soto, who, as I said, used to work at the embassy. Mr. Soto was assigned to work at the embassy of Venezuela in Iraq. And then, as he began to work there, he noticed some irregularities. And so he began to report what he says was a scheme to sell passports and visas for thousands of dollars out of that embassy, and that he was offered all kinds of money to do this, to get a cut of that thousands of dollars, and of course he says he declined it. CNN and CNN en Español have over the last year teamed up on a joint investigation, relying on much of the same information that I've had access to, looking into all of these allegations, and one they uncovered in a story that posted tonight was evidence of serious irregularities in the issuing of Venezuelan passports and visas, including passports that were given to people with ties to terrorism. According to CNN, one confidential intelligence document obtained by CNN, intelligence documents from nations in the Western Hemisphere, not from the United States, it actually directly links Venezuela's now new vice president, who is in line to potentially become the president when the current dictator is going to have to give up power here soon because of this cataclysm that they're facing. The name of that vice president is Tariq el-Assimi, and there are now links, according to CNN, to the current vice president, Tariq el-Assimi, and the 173 Venezuelan passports and IDs that were issued to individuals from the Middle East, including people connected to the terrorist group Hezbollah. It's important to understand that, according to the CNN article appropriately outlines this, a Venezuelan passport, if you have a passport from Venezuela, you are allowed to enter over 130 countries on this planet without a visa. That includes the 26 countries in the European Union. So a Venezuelan passport is a valuable commodity for someone who's trying to travel around the world under an assumed name with a valid government document. So that's why it's important. Mr. Lopez, the whistleblower that once worked at the embassy, is a lawyer. He used to be a police officer in Venezuela. And he said, according to the article, that he thought that becoming a diplomat was a great career opportunity that would allow him to serve his country. And so he moved to Baghdad and started his new life at the embassy. And he remembers what he calls an unwelcome surprise on his first day in July of 2013. His new boss was Venezuelan Ambassador Jonathan Velasco, and the ambassador handed him a special envelope. And he said, this is the quote, "He gave me an envelope full of visas and passports," Lopez recalled, "and he told me, get this one. This is $1 million US. I thought it was like a joke. Then he told me, here, people pay a lot of money to get a visa or a passport to leave this country," meaning Iraq. About a month later, Lopez said he realized it was no joke. An Iraqi employee of the embassy who was hired to be an interpreter told him that she, the interpreter, had made thousands of dollars selling Venezuelan passports and visas, and that he could make a lot of money too. He says he told her it was wrong and he refused. The employee pressed the issue, telling him that there were thousands of dollars to be made, even discussing an offer to sell visas to 13 Syrians for $10,000 each. Lopez said that he was stunned when he found a document inside the embassy. It was a list of 21 Arabic names with corresponding Venezuelan passport numbers and a Venezuelan identification number. A Venezuelan immigration official told CNN that a cross-check of the passport numbers indicated that the passports are valid and that those passports given to these people with the 21 Arabic names, when he ran the cross-check, they actually matched the names on the list Lopez found, meaning the people on the list could be able to travel using those Venezuelan passports. But here's what's incredible. A publicly available database in Venezuela examined by CNN shows that 20 of the 21 identification numbers of the people with the Arabic names that match the passports are actually registered to people with Hispanic names, not the Arabic names listed on the passports. So basically, CNN has uncovered evidence that on at least 21 occasions, the Venezuelan government, the Venezuelan embassy, has sold passports to someone from the Middle East but assigned them a Hispanic surname or a Hispanic name. People are traveling under assumed identities from the Middle East. And we'll have a couple of those names we're going to share with you in a moment. In April 2014, only 9 months after he started the job, he emailed a report about all this to the ambassador. He said the ambassador did nothing, and in fact, the ambassador, Velasco, threatened to fire him. By 2015, he was so frustrated that no one would investigate it that he took what he found to Delcy Rodriguez, who was Venezuela's foreign minister. He emailed a report that said that there was fraudulent issuing of visas, birth certificates, and Venezuelan documents. He said nothing happened. Eventually, with nowhere else to turn, Mr. Lopez said he contacted an FBI official at the U.S. Embassy in Madrid, and by the end of 2015, the Venezuelan government accused him of abandoning his post and removed him. And a police official showed up at his home in Venezuela with a document that said he was under investigation for revealing confidential documents or secrets. Now, this is not the first time this Congress hears about this. U.S. lawmakers heard reports about Venezuela's passport fraud during congressional hearings as far back as 2006. In fact, a congressional report warned that, quote, Venezuela is providing support, including identity documents that could prove useful to radical Islamic groups. A State Department report at that time concluded, quote, Venezuelan travel and identification documents are extremely easy to obtain by persons not entitled to them. Roger Noriega, the former U.S. ambassador to the OAS, a former Assistant Secretary of State for the Western Hemisphere, said in prepared remarks before Congress in 2012, quote, Venezuela has provided thousands of phony IDs, passports, and visas to persons of Middle Eastern origin. In 2013, confidential intelligence report from a group of Latin American countries obtained by CNN says that from 2008 to 2012, I already outlined this earlier, 173 individuals from the Middle East were issued Venezuelan passports and IDs. Among them were people connected to the terrorist group Hezbollah. And the official who ordered the issuing of these passports, the report said, is Tariq al-Assimi, who just a few months ago was appointed and is now the Vice President of Venezuela. Back then, he was the minister in charge of immigration, as well as a governor. He personally took charge of issuing, granting visas, and nationalizing citizens from different countries, especially Syrians, Lebanese, Jordanians, Iranians, and Iraqis, the report said. And so, what we have now is an unbelievable situation in which a country in this hemisphere, according to both the whistleblower, independent reports, and now CNN's own investigation, Venezuela has been providing passports to people from the Middle East under false pretenses, basically fraudulent documents that allow them to travel all over the world. Among them, Hakeem Mohammed Ali Diab Fattah, a Palestinian, suspected Hezbollah member, given national ID number 16.105.824, issued on July 12th, 2012. He was deported from the United States in 2002 for his possible connection to the 9/11 hijackers via aviation school in the United States. He was detained and arrested by Jordanian authorities on May 3rd, 2015 for suspicion to finance terror. This individual has that national ID number from Venezuela and a passport that was allowing him to travel. Here's another one. Ahmad Adnan Ali, an Iraqi, another suspected Hezbollah member, a convicted trafficker facing charges in France and Denmark, has documents under two aliases, Ahmad El Timi Villalobos, with the number 29.645.898. That's the number on the ID. It was issued on the 16th of January of 2014. He has another alias and another document, Ahmed El Timi Gomez. His name is neither Villalobos nor Gomez, but he has these documents. By the way, all this, according to CNN, is no surprise to General Marco Ferreira, who was in charge of immigration office in Venezuela in 2002. He now lives in Miami. He was granted political asylum. He told CNN that he personally witnessed corrupt senior officials ordering passports for people who were not citizens when he was running the department. He said it was very easy to assume someone else's identity. It was very, very easy to go and be a Venezuelan or pretend to be born in Venezuela. I bring this up, Mr. President, in the midst of all these other things, because we now understand that what we are facing in Venezuela is not just a corrupt government and a tyranny, but a nation that is under the corrupt leadership of its now vice president and of course its president, a nation that is trafficking and selling passports and travel documents to individuals with links to terrorism. And that poses a direct threat to the national security of the United States. And I hope in the days to come that with this new information and with this report that we can work with the Justice Department and the State Department to take appropriate measures to protect our nation and the world from what is occurring at the hands of the Venezuelan government under their tyrant Maduro and under its vice president, who personally ran the department that was doing and undertaking these corrupt activities. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.